What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a couple signings to tell you about, a couple updates there, and then there's actually something of interest, some drama, if you will, that I want to just take a quick look at too. So let's get through these signings. Dolphins re-signed Mack Hollins, wide receiver. I'll get through this article in just a second, but you know, another low-key signing, nothing really major. Both of the signings overall were kind of low-key. You know, nothing really major. They don't have like any cap space, so it's not like they can at the moment, but I'll get into that in a minute. But as far as Mack Hollins goes, you know, just another wide receiver. That room actually is starting to have a lot of bodies in it. We'll have to wait and see who rises to the top, but there are going to be a significant amount of, like a significant number of players in that wide receiver room, especially if they end up drafting a wide receiver early on, like a lot of Dolphins fans want. I still don't think that that's going to happen. I still think that they're really in on Deshaun Watson. I don't think they're going to have the 3rd and the 18th overall pick because I think they're going to trade him away. We'll see. I mean, real quick, I know it's kind of a side note. As I mentioned with that, the only thing I could really see derailing that at this point would be this whole, you know, legal issues that he's having. And again, I mean, I wouldn't trade for him to begin with, but especially not if it's, you know, found true that he has, you know, done the things that these women are saying that he's done. But my guess is, again, you know, all the NFL cares about is their money, and they want, you know, their big stars in the game, and they'll probably try and get the thing settled. So having said that, you know, again, all of the moves that the Dolphins have made and everything that they seem to be doing seems to be leading up to that. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we still got, you know, another month until the draft, so it could take anywhere between now and then. But they also do have to clear cap space for that, and just period. Anyway, let's get through this because I will touch on those things a bit more as we go through. The Miami Dolphins announced Tuesday they have re-signed wide receiver Mack Hollins, a 2017 4th-round draft choice by the Eagles. The Dolphins claimed Hollins off waivers in December 2019. He appeared in 4 games that year for Miami before playing in all 16 last year. He has 16 receptions for 176 yards and a touchdown. So obviously, you know, he hasn't done much yet. He had been a free agent this offseason, ultimately returning. Anyway, so this is interesting. And to what I was saying, Hollins' return to the Dolphins means they have 12 wide receivers under contract. And that's why I was saying that room is getting pretty full as far as bodies. But unfortunately, you know, the wide receiver room is... it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Let's see if any of these guys are able to, you know, rise up to the top, right? Devontae Parker and Will Fuller headline a group that also includes Hollins, Jakeem Grant, Preston Williams, Albert Wilson, Alan Hearns, Robert Foster, Kirk Merritt, Lynn Bowden, Kai Loxley, and Malcolm Perry. Miami is also believed to be targeting a receiver in the draft. So, again, I don't think that's going to happen because I think they're going to trade for Deshaun Watson. I don't think they're going to have those picks. But if they did, then you would add that person, whoever that is, Jamar Chase or whoever, right, in with Devontae Parker, Will Fuller. I do like Preston Williams. He's kind of in the same mold as Devontae Parker, but he has had some injuries that are concerning. I'd love Jakeem Grant. He's an underdog. He's a little guy, and he is obviously, you know, a special teams guy and also, you know, somewhat of a gadget player, but I think there's always a place for one of those kinds of, at least one or two of those kinds of guys in a wide receiver room, so I love having him. Albert Wilson and Alan Hearns, I like them. They're fine. And then the rest of the guys are just like whatever, right? So, but overall, that room definitely does need to see some improvements and definitely needs to pick it up going forward. Okay, so the next thing, because the Dolphins, as I mentioned, did do another signing. It was a player that they already had in Elandon Roberts. So that's good, at least from the perspective of, well, they got to sign somebody from that fucking defense last year, right? because already they've gotten rid of a couple guys from that defense. Devon Godshaw's gone. He was a big part of that. Van Noy obviously was a big part of that, which actually, ironically enough, we will be talking about him in a minute because he actually is part of the drama that I mentioned. But anyway, and then, you know, you have Xavier Howard who wants a new contract, right? And so we'll have to see how that plays out. You have Jerome Baker who's coming up on a contract. You have, let's see, Bobby McCain and Eric Rowe who have been looked at as possible cap casualties. Right? Byron Jones, he would either need like maybe a restructure to his contract, or maybe they could just get rid of him because it's such a high fucking contract and he's not worth it. Right? But so on one hand, it's good that they brought him back. As you guys know, I never really liked the signing all that much to begin with, because I thought that even though, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the lower contracts, because by the time, if I'm not mistaken, by the time they got to him, they had already given, you know, Eric Flowers, Van Noy, Shaq Lawson, these other guys, the really, really big fucking, and Byron Jones, the really, really big exorbitant contracts. And so they couldn't give him quite as much. So that's probably part of the reason why they're re-signing him, because he's not going to cost as much. But and they don't have any fucking money. But like I said, I didn't really like the signing to begin with because, one, I didn't like the purge to begin with. So the fact that we had so many holes to fill, I didn't like. But because, you know, I thought that what they were paying him was going to be a bit overpaid. You know, maybe okay, whatever, but you weren't really going to get that much out of him, which you didn't. And then he sustained a pretty serious knee injury. And so these guys, you know, this coaching staff and this regime, they love to take flyers on fucking all kinds of reclamation projects, whether they have injuries, whether they have off the field issues, whether they're former first round busts, whether they're fucking waiver wire guys, and they fail miserably in their evaluations and or their ability to actually, you know, rehab those guys' careers. So I have my concerns with it, but it is what it is, and they definitely needed to bring somebody back from that defense. And because also, real quick, no matter what, even if they don't trade for Deshaun Watson, obviously if they traded for Deshaun Watson, they would have to clear, like, as of right now, they would have to clear probably $20 million in cap space if they were going to, at least, if they were going to try and trade for Deshaun Watson, right? Because that's how little cap they have right now. If they weren't going to do that, they still have to, because if I'm not mistaken, you know, they haven't released anybody really since Van Noy and you know, Devon Godshaw leaving in free agency, right? So they haven't really cleared any cap space yet. And if I'm not mistaken, they have dipped into the cap space that they would need to sign their rookie class. Now, again, I think that they're probably actually going to be trading for Deshaun Watson, which means that they would have less picks overall, which means their draft class would be less expensive. And if they do what I think they're going to do and trade the 3rd and the 18th overall pick, then not only do you get rid of 2 less players that you have to pay, but the most expensive ones from your draft class. So it could be that in their mind, part of what they're going to be doing is or keeping that in mind and being like, well, you know, we're gonna trade those picks anyway for Deshaun Watson, so we don't necessarily actually need as much for our draft class. So, you know, that's why we don't need to necessarily cut as much. But no matter what, they're going to have to do it because they are literally like bare bones. The coffers are basically fucking empty. So it is going to be very interesting to see who ends up being those kinds of casualties. Is there going to be a Bobby McCain and an Eric Rowe? Are they going to let Byron Jones go? Or is Byron Jones going to restructure his contract? What about Eric Flowers? He wasn't really that great last year, right? He was okay at best, but not what his contract would say, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see what exactly it is that they do. Anyway, Dolphins linebacker Elandon Roberts won't be leaving. Roberts, who has been a free agent for a week, re-signed with the Dolphins. Originally a 6th-round pick of the Patriots in 2016, Roberts played for the Dolphins head coach Brian Flores when he was a defensive coordinator in New England, and Flores was eager to bring him to Miami as well. Yeah, same thing with a bunch of other players and coaches, and he's fired a bunch of them already. Okay, I mean, apparently that doesn't actually mean anything, though, in this regime. Like, I get it, right? Like, I get when guys have a chemistry with players or other coaches and a familiarity and, you know, they already have the same kind of, like, mindset, and you bring them in because, you know, they're going to gel within the organization. And they said that a bunch of times about these guys that were brought in, but obviously it's not that big a deal. And their, you know, chemistry ain't that great because they're fucking getting rid of them, you know, a year after they sign them, like Van Noy or whatever, right? Anyway, last year Roberts played in 13 games with 11 starts. He played on 39% of the Dolphins' defensive snaps and 10% of special team snaps before suffering a season-ending knee injury in Week 16. Yeah, so, you know, and again, I mean, these signings, one, they just don't have any cap space, so they can't really do a lot. But I do think that it is ultimately leaning towards them eventually, you know, trading for Deshaun Watson, because they are going to have to clear. I'm guessing that at this point, they're probably pretty settled in what they have for the team. They're probably now going to fucking start doing some cap cutting moves and then get ready to do the draft. Trade for Deshaun Watson, do the draft. We'll see. Again, I hope they don't trade for Deshaun Watson for, you know, a number of reasons, even outside of the legal issues. I just don't think it's going to be the right decision, especially because they are going to severely handicap their ability to build a team around him, both in cap space and with draft capital. So I don't like it, but and I hope that they remain quiet. I hope they prove that they were going to not be big spenders in free agency and do that. But we'll have to wait and see, because we still have about another month before the draft. And anywhere between now and then, a trade could materialize. So we'll have to wait and see. And a month is a long time, man. Those legal issues, if the NFL really does, if they do what I think they're going to do, because Deshaun Watson is such a star, and man, would they love to see fucking, you know, a blockbuster trade like we've never seen before for a really talented young quarterback that's made 3 Pro Bowls already or whatever, right? Like, because that brings so much fucking drama and excitement to the NFL. It lures people in, jersey sales and fucking, right? So storylines, all of that bullshit. So my guess is they're going to try and squash it as fast as possible, and they're likely going to try and do it by settling. So, and frankly, I'm not even convinced. I'm honestly not even convinced that if he were to be found guilty of these things, unless he went to jail, unless the dude went to fucking jail, I seriously doubt that there would be no team out of the 32 NFL teams that would bring him in. It's not Colin Kaepernick, right? Like, he's not protesting against racial injustice and doing things like that they feel like could fucking, you know, bring bad attention or hurt their bottom line or anything like that. Like I said, I mean, he would have to, like, get convicted and fucking like go to jail. Otherwise, if they settle, or if, you know, the charges get fucking, if they get dropped, or if they get lessened, then I can virtually guarantee you one of the 32 NFL teams will sign him. Anyway, so the final thing I want to talk about is some interesting little bit of drama that's coming up when apparently Kyle Van Noy did an interview. So Kyle Van Noy shows no interest in discussing Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. Former Miami Dolphins linebacker Kyle Van Noy had a rather interesting response when asked a question about Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. Van Noy, who signed with the New England Patriots after he was released by the Dolphins this offseason, played for Flores in New England as well. The only difference was that in New England, Flores was the linebackers coach. Flores was Van Noy's head coach in Miami. Van Noy did not want to discuss the differences between those two experiences at all. And so the question was, what was the difference between Brian Flores, the linebackers coach, and Brian Flores, the head coach? And his response was, no comment. That's a pretty loud response, though. I mean, if you have any idea like how human beings work, you would understand that actually speaks volumes. Van Noy had some of his best years of his career in New England, and he will likely relish the fact that he will face Flores and the Dolphins 2 times this coming season. Last season, Van Noy totaled 6 sacks and 69 tackles for Miami in 14 games. Dolphins went 10-6, blah, 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 whatever. It was an aberration. Doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, point is, so it's interesting. Obviously, that could be read a million different ways. On its face, it definitely is really benign, and to be fair, maybe he didn't mean anything by it, right? Maybe he loves Brian Flores and so on and so forth. My guess is, though, is in New England, Brian Flores wasn't the head fucking honcho, right? He was just one of the side dudes, one of the fucking position coaches. He wasn't a coordinator, right? Even when he took over play calling duties for the defense the year before he came over to Miami, he wasn't actually the defensive coordinator. He didn't have the title. He didn't have the job title, right? My guess is also he didn't have the pay that went with it. But he did get given play calling duties, right? And so my guess is that, because Brian Flores didn't really have as much power, he wasn't in front of the entire team. He wasn't one of the few people that gets to go into the room with the owner when they have those, kinds of discussions, right? Because, Brian Flores, I guarantee you, didn't get to go into like the war room and shit, with fucking, New England, right? Or the inner circle room, whatever it is, right? That's reserved for the owner, Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady would be in there, right? And then depending on the situation, you might have your coordinators. And then, because then what happens is if they do want input from, like, let's say the scouting department, they're going to get those guys to drop reports for them and then give them to them that they can look over and talk about privately in their discussions, right? Because they have things that they're going to want to talk about that they don't necessarily want other people to know about. So, right, when he was a linebackers coach, he wasn't up there. When he became a head coach, especially when he came over to Miami and what he was asked to do specifically, I think, unleashed who Brian Flores really is. Now, I don't think that he just all of a sudden changed and became a new person. I think he was always this way. It's just that now that he was put into a real true position of power and is one of those guys, that's in the room with the owner, like, it'd be him, Stephen Ross, and Chris Greer, maybe also Reggie McKenzie and whatever the fuck other dude's name is. Anyway, right? But now that he's there, now that he's in that position, and specifically what he was asked to do, Van Noy got to see a side of him that he didn't necessarily get to see in New England. You feel me? Right? Because now he got to see that, oh man, Brian Flores is kind of a fucking sellout. This dude fucking came over to Miami specifically to fucking tank the 2019 season. And obviously that was before Van Noy got there. It wasn't until after that, it wasn't until the offseason after that they did the big spending spree and brought him over and so on and so forth. So he saw that from afar. But then when he gets into the organization, then and I'm sure he heard a lot of the stuff, right? With the way they treated Kenny Stills and, lying to fucking Laramie Tunsil, being like, I'm not going to trade you, and then doing it. He saw some of that shit from the outside. But then when he got in there and actually got to see it from the inside, how they treated Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? And then with how he got traded, right? With the way that they were just like, yeah, you're expendable, fuck off, right? We decided that we overpaid you last season, which was obvious, and we're just going to say fuck off now, right? So when he actually got to get in there and see it firsthand, he realized, man, this dude's probably this dude is just a sellout and a fucking liar, right? I don't know. Obviously, I'm speculating on what Van Noy's actual thoughts are on that. But what it does say for certain is I mean, again, I guess you could make some sort of argument that, he just doesn't want to ruffle feathers or whatever. And no, he really loves Brian Flores. Okay, I guess. But if that was the case, why wouldn't you say that? Why wouldn't you just say it? Right? if there was really no animosity or anything like that, no tension, and if you really fucking just loved the dude, why would you have a reason to hide that? You don't, right? That's not how it works. That's not how people work. You don't hide good things. People are happy to fucking share good things, right? If he was fucking, if they were best bros, I'm sure he'd have been like, bro, me and Flo, we're cool, man. We're fucking cool. He was like, nah, no comment. That's one of those kinds of things that you say when you're like, I got things I want to say, bro, but I'm probably going to get myself in trouble if I do, kind of shit. Or, you know, whatever, right? So what it says is that things are not all cool. It's not kosher. It ain't copacetic. And there's probably some feelings there. Because, again, he's just a sellout fucking lying piece of shit that just wanted the fucking the position of power as an NFL head coach and the fucking paycheck that came with it. And it's clear. It's absolutely clear. It's clear in how he fucking acquiesced to the entire tanking. He admit to destroying the fucking roster. He had a hand in every single transaction. He said that. Right? And then the evidence is also clear in how he tried to put the team in position to fail time and time again throughout the 2019 season so they would win as few games as possible. What they didn't count on is Ryan Fitzpatrick being a boss leader and, you know, himself being able to rally the team to 5 wins. You know, but they certainly fucking made sure they didn't get past that so they could get a top 5 pick to go get Tua. And then even since then, I mean, there are numerous occasions in which he proved to be just a fucked up human being, you know, again, with the way he treated Fitzpatrick and, you know, proven to be a liar, saying, oh, you know, he's like my kid. I wouldn't want to rush him along 2 weeks before he inserts Tua as a starter. 1 week before inserting him as a start, or excuse me, 1 week before inserting him in for garbage time, he's like, why would I put him in for garbage time? So he can do what? Because he's a fucking liar. He's a liar. Now, my guess is, as I said, and I'll finish it with this, is my guess is when he said that to begin with, he actually meant it. But then later, because Stephen Ross felt different. Again, I don't have direct evidence for this, but this is just my speculation. Stephen Ross was like, no, those comments you made last week about why would I put him in, no, I want to see him in. And then he put him in against the Jets when we were killing the Jets. So, I mean, like, he's full of shit, and he's clearly just a fucking sellout who's doing everything that Daddy Ross fucking tells him to do, and that's it. That's it. It's clear and it's fucking obvious. So I find it interesting that Van Noy's like, yeah, bro, no comment. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna get into it here, but obviously I feel some type of way. So, you know, but I'm sure that there's gonna be people out there and be like, oh, Kyle Van Noy's just crying, like they said with Minkah Fitzpatrick. No, maybe it's because they're pieces of shit and they actually have a reason to fucking be upset. That could be it too. I don't know. Anyway, with that, I'm going to get out of here, though. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.